Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum. For the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world. We'll look at the market with the Market Watch, stocks that we're paying attention to, local, national stories that you need to know about. And folks, if you've ever said, you know what I'd like to eat? Sunscreen. Well, we might have an opportunity for you coming up later in the show. It's disgusting here. But we'll end the show with that, along with a new flavor of Girl Scout cookies. But first, we got tariff news, all of that. So let's get started with that Market Watch. The PPI inflation report did come out earlier today. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but everything is up today, well, except for the Dow Jones, right? That is down 200 points right now to 45,460. S&P 500's up 8 points to 6531. The Nasdaq's up 29 points to 21,908. The small cap index there, the Russell 2K, up about a point, 0.90. It keeps fluctuating there on us, 2377 for it. Bitcoin, with the encouraging inflation reading from the PPI, I'll say, well, it's up today about 2,100 points, 113,730 from that side. So before we go to stocks we're paying attention to right now, well, let me get you updated on what that producer price index actually said here today. I got no graphics on this or anything, but if you don't know, the PPI, producer price index, is a gauge of costs at the wholesale level in the economy. Well, it actually posted an unexpected 0.1% decline in August. That's disappointing, but considered good as well. So third time this year, the PPI has shown a deflation. And, and this basically is the pipeline price pressures out there, what the wholesalers get, what they charge to move on, things like that. The economists, well, they were looking for a 0.3% interest or increase in this report. Only got the 0.1% decline here as well. So the core PPI, which of course strips out food and energy, those are really volatile. Well, it fell 0.1% as well. But core minus trade services, well, if you take the trade services out along with the core, it actually rose 0.3% from that side. So it's a tame reading, obviously leading to more speculation that the Federal Reserve is going to do their rate cuts next week. I mean, it's got to be coming with the job numbers in this. It's almost 100% deal. But there's some political stuff that might influence that, and we'll talk about that here on the show today as well. So despite this report, near certainty of a rate cut, well, market reaction, as you see on your screen right now, muted today based off of all that. Treasury yields, well, barely moved, but they did move down, but modestly down for the Treasury yields as well. Now, the PPI, to give it its fairness here, don't expect big movements. The PPI is generally not considered a high profile or even well understood metric at all. People tend to look more towards the consumer price index, which is coming out tomorrow, which is more on the consumer level, not the wholesale level in terms of pricing. So tomorrow's report is going to be the big one as well. So it's, by the way, CPI readings tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But the Fed looks at these underlying numbers. They'll look at the consumer report, but then they'll want to know what the underlying number is on what happens to the consumer side. So they're both important here to the Fed's numbers here. And with this report, PPI and CPI, 4/5 of these two reports, well, they feed into the Fed's preferred inflation gauge as well, which means they kind of look at this all together as a whole to see if they should cut rates, raise rates, and things to that effect. So big number, CPI tomorrow will carry more weight in the eyes of investors, and you see nominal movement here today overall based off of these numbers. So that report's out earlier today, which leads us to stocks we're paying attention to right now. And folks, there was a big shock out there yesterday in reporting and numbers, so much so that one analyst came out and said, quote, "We're all kind of shocked," unquote, was an analyst expectation of what they saw yesterday. We're talking about Oracle right now, folks. First stock we're paying attention to, up 37.39% right now, was over the 40% range earlier today as well. They reported that multi-cloud database revenue from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. They say that those multi-cloud database revenue from those three companies grew at a rate of 1,529% in the last quarter. That is absolute astronomical growth rate here, and that's from the multi-cloud database revenue from three companies at that point. Obviously, that's easy to look at. You kind of ignore all the other numbers, right? And it did help investors look past that fiscal first quarter earnings and revenue. They came in weaker than expectations for Oracle, but when you have a 1,529 growth rate from three companies, you're going to pay more attention to that number out there. Oracle up 37.40% right now. And then next, we're going to look at GameStop. Yeah, it's a meme stock out there. They sell games, cards, things like that. 6.40% up right now for GameStop. They reported second quarter earnings came in at 25 cents per share. And their revenue was $972.2 million. Couldn't find it on my screen there for a second. But what I wanted to look up here is GameStop started buying Bitcoin, right, and holding that. And so we found out their Bitcoin holdings were valued at $528.6 million at the close of the quarter as well. So GameStop, some positive numbers for them. They're up that 6.57% here today. And then finally, I don't even know if we'll have a graph on this one yet. Just hitting the stock market here today, New York Stock Exchange. Welcome Klarna as its first member. And we do get a little bit of movement here. They basically priced their IPO above its expected range as well. If you don't know what Klarna is, they're actually a overseas company. I believe Swedish. I believe it's a Swedish company. But they do the buy now, pay later products out there is what they do. They priced shares at $40 on Tuesday. They raised $1.37 billion for the company and their existing shareholders before today as well. The offering valued Klarna at about $15 billion. That was yesterday. Well, today opened up at $52 per share on the New York Stock Exchange and that side. So they did come in and price its IPO above its expected range, hitting the market. You can see some downfall here today from that $52 per share opening on the markets. So basically that means $40 was for everybody else. Then once it goes into the market, they price it at a level they think it'll go. It's had some come down here as it's only trading at right there at the $47 mark right now from that side. But Klarna, that buy now, pay later, and they are Swedish. I just looked it up as well. Company hitting the market here today for the first time. Later on when we come back, we'll talk a little Joby Aviation. You know, that air taxi company making some news today. Chewy. Some of y'all aren't buying enough dog and cat toys and treats from Chewy, at least. We'll talk about that. And then Broadcom is the other stock that we're going to look at later on as well. But first, got to get you updated on some tariff stuff out there. Two interesting stories if you combine them together here to start off. But first of all, we do know that President Donald Trump urged EU officials to hit China with tariffs of up to 100%. He did all this with a meeting on Tuesday. The people that are saying this are sources, including a U.S. official and a EU diplomat. Both separately came out and said that's what he's kind of pushing the tariffs for the EU against China to hit. This is all part of the strategy to pressure Vladimir Putin, right, Russia's president, to stranglehold his economy so he can stop this war, of course, over there in Ukraine. One source familiar, well, they said that Trump encouraged the EU to put similar large tariffs on India as well. Both China and India, as you know, if you watch this show, they buy a lot of Russian oil. And Russian oil is basically keeping, Russian oil, I should say, is still keeping and is what is keeping the Russian economy going. Quickest way to stop this war in Ukraine? Stop buying Russian oil out there. The EU delegation is currently in Washington to discuss sanctions coordinations. Another story I read separately from this one said that Trump said he'll put the tariffs on China and India himself if the EU will follow him. So just something to keep an eye on. And this is interesting for a couple folds. One, trying to affect this war, of course, between Russia and Ukraine. But number two, the United States is still in a tit and tat war here in terms of tariffs with India out there. So this story is kind of contrasting that one. It's kind of interesting to say, but the Indian Prime Minister said the U.S. and India are, quote, close friends and natural partners, is how they phrased it. But he also expressed his confidence that future trade negotiations will actually unlock unlimited potential between the two countries. He said all that in an X post earlier Wednesday. He said both countries are working to settle trade discussions at the earliest. He added that he was looking forward to talks with President Trump about the issues that they have. Trump did make a similar post earlier today, praising the president there of India as a very good friend, is his phrase, and confirming that the two countries were actually in negotiations. Trump did add that he expected a favorable outcome in the upcoming weeks. So I kind of wonder how India feels about the pressures there, right, of extra tariffs between the EU and them on that Russian oil. The talks mark a significant shift because these two countries have been battling it out publicly and behind the scenes of those heightened trade tensions between them. Both countries have imposed tariffs and counter tariffs against each other. Washington, well, they're pressuring India to ease prices on the U.S. dairy and farm goods. India does resist that to protect its large population of small farmers. Trump has asked India to reduce reliance on Russian oil and increase its purchases of American liquefied natural gas and crude. India, though, comes out and argues that energy diversification is a must to keep prices stable. That's the big thing to me, is the Russian oil side of things. On the technology side, American firms are pushing for greater market access in India, stronger intellectual property protections, and fewer data localization rules. India defends those rules as necessary for national security and supporting its own startups over there. So these unresolved disputes, are three key categories: agriculture, energy, as well, and technology, of course, there. But this is why India and the United States haven't come to a solution here on the trade barriers, and why they're still battling it out as well. These are big hurdles to get a big deal here between those two countries, or the United States and India as well. So other news to follow up on here: the Supreme Court did come out yesterday, and they said they will quickly decide whether most of President Trump's tariffs, whether they're legal or not. This is a news that came out yesterday, and it follows the Trump administration's request for the Supreme Court to take up the appeal of that lower court ruling. The Supreme Court placed the case on a fast track and scheduled oral arguments for the first week of November session. This always cracks me up about the legal systems in the Supreme Court. They're fast tracking it. Yeah, we'll get to it in November. The White House defended, of course, Trump's tariffs as a legitimate use of presidential powers to protect the economy. This is the one, remember, the lawsuit. It won't affect the steel. This is the one under the Emergency Act that he used. Those are those sweeping tariffs that are kind of under threat right now. If you remember, that federal appeals court ruled on August 29th that Trump overstepped his authority by using emergency powers to impose those new tariffs on imported goods. The court said the power lies squarely with Congress, is how they put it in their ruling, or within existing trade policy frameworks. The court allowed the tariffs, as you know, to remain in effect until mid-October. And then, of course, Supreme Court. They will extend that, by the way, because the Supreme Court is taking it up there in early part of November. So you'll probably see an extension of that, of the tariffs into effect going forward. So President Trump going in front of the Supreme Court on that. And I don't know. This is an interesting one because Congress technically has the purse strings. It'll be interesting to see what the arguments are of this Emergency Act. And if it's possible, President Trump and his administration win it. If not, there's going to be some big repayments to a lot of countries out there. And we talked yesterday about the revision of the jobs revision out there. And later on in the show, we're going to talk specifically about Arizona with those revisions. But right now, well, it's no shocker that the Trump administration and President Trump is not happy with the Bureau of Labor Statistics Department and the Labor Department's jobs revisions that they're doing. Well, they blasted them yesterday as well on this. This is the one where 911,000 jobs lower than what was first thought from the 2024 through March of this year. That revision, it was the largest correction on record, by the way. There's revisions, out there. And again, this is all the Bureau of Labor Statistics we're talking about. They showed the previous job reports were overstated by 911,000 jobs. This latest adjustment, which was on the higher end of the Wall Street expectations, remember they wanted $1 million. They had a high end at $1 million. Well, it comes as President Trump steps up to this call for the Federal Reserve to cut rates to stimulate the U.S. economy. One of the things the Feds looks at is job numbers, and if the economy jobs look good, they don't cut rates in those situations. And Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, has been saying, employment's good. We're not cutting rates. Employment's good. We're not cutting rates. 911,000 revised down numbers here as well. So the press secretary came out, and Caroline Levitt there, she wrote a statement to Fox News Digital. I'll read that for you here. Quote, today, the BLS released the largest downward revision on record, proving that President Trump was right. Biden's economy was a disaster, and the BLS is broken. She went on to say, this is exactly why we need new leadership to restore trust and confidence in the BLS's data on behalf of the financial markets, the businesses, policymakers, and families that rely on this data to make major decisions. She does go on to say that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has officially run out of excuses and must cut the rates now. Quote, considering these reports are the foundation of economic forecasts and major policy decisions, there's no room for such a significant and consistent amount of error. It's imperative for the data to remain accurate, impartial, and never interfered or altered for political gain. And that's the thing. If we knew we were 911,000 jobs lower than what it was saying earlier, that changes things out there, and things could have been done before. So something to keep an eye on with that BLS statistics and restoring faith, I guess we should say, there into that department. Other news out there around the president and the Fed, ironically enough, well, a federal judge came out yesterday and blocked President Trump from firing that Federal Reserve governor. We're talking about Lisa Cook here. She is allowed to continue her current role for now, because the lawyers, of course, the Trump administration, they're expected to appeal the decision to a higher court for review. So she's able to keep her job for now, moving forward. This was all from a U.S. district judge. Was just, if you keep track of these things, was a Biden appointee based in Washington, D.C. That judge said that she'll be moving Cook's request into a preliminary injunction. So basically, she can go back to work. Nothing changes while it goes through the court process as well on what decisions made in this process. The judge did say, though, that Cook has shown, quote, irreparable harm, unquote, in her time away from the Federal Reserve, as she's one of the leaders in controlling monetary policy. Did add that, quote, she has lost the ability to fulfill a high-ranking public servant role to which she is entitled, unquote. This is the argument here that the president cannot fire a federal member unless it's for cause. Of course, she's now officially, before it was just an allegation, but now the Justice Department's criminal investigation is doing that into Cook over allegations of mortgage application fraud. It's the latest revelation in that lawsuit, which is going to head to the Supreme Court, by the way, and if Trump can fire her or not. So this Justice Department probe, before it was just an allegation, now they're actually looking into her a little bit. And this looking into, right, this probe could further complicate Lisa Cook's fight to stay in her role on the Fed board as well. So It went from she did mortgage fraud, but no courts or anything involved, no look into's, to where now she's officially being looked into. So obviously a different situation once you start being looked into out there, and as well. And we don't talk too much about it here. I got to sneeze, folks. I apologize. But the gender wage gap out there, right? And the U.S. Census Bureau came out with new data. I had no screen to hide behind that time. That was the only one on camera. The gender wage gap. Well, it's now widened in 2024 for the second year in a row. So basically, women's pay. If you're into that equality rights issue, well, that obviously is a big blow for those rights out there as well. So the news, well, it follows recent reports that women, particularly mothers of young children, are actually leaving the workforce at a very large rate. The data was released September 9th. It shows the female to male earnings ratio, comparing the median earnings of women and men, both working full time year round, as how they compared. The ratio fell in 2024 to 80.9%. It was at 82.7% in 2023. In 2022, the ratio was 84% at that time. So basically, every dollar a man makes in America, a woman made 84 cents in 2022, 83 cents in 23, and then, of course, 81 cents in 2024. The Bureau did note the initial decrease from 22 to 23 as, quote, the first statistically significant annual decrease, unquote, since 2003. So the slide down here on these numbers, well, it's actually worse for black women out there. In 2024, they were paid 65 cents for every dollar paid to white men. That's down from 66 cents in 23, 69 cents in 22. And this is all part of the Women's Law Center putting those specific numbers out then. The report found median earnings actually increased 3.7% for full-time year-round male workers, but they didn't change at all or even any significance for women. Overall median household income was not any different statistically wise from 2023 from that side. So the data, well, it's notable from 2024. Pay attention to this because it's from 2024, before President Trump took office. So we'll have to see how it changes here. Obviously, we'll have to wait till next year for that. But kind of the flail on this is a lot of women, specifically women with young children, are leaving the workforce, which is going to drive that number down a little bit as that continues to happen. So wage gap numbers out there for you. And then, right, we're coming up on the holiday season. It's September 10th right now. Well, U.S. holiday sales, how are they going to be this year? If you're a retailer or you work in retail, well, they're projected to grow at their slowest pace since the old pandemic back in 2020. This is all from a report from Deloitte, a French company. They said this all in a forecast released yesterday. Macroeconomic uncertainties weigh on consumer spending, obviously. So we knew it would be an interesting holiday year. But with that, economic uncertainties weighing on consumer spending, we finally got some reporting numbers out there. So retailers in recent week, just to remind you, they've issued missed forecasts heading into the holiday season. For instance, Target, even Best Buy, they've maintained their annual forecasts going into the holidays. Walmart, though, and Macy's, well, they've raised their forecasts. Mattel, toy maker, big toy maker, they actually cut their forecast there. So mixed reactions from the companies as well going into this holiday season. If you also remember that PwC survey earlier this month, that this is going to be the steepest drop in U.S. holiday spending since the pandemic. Gen Z shoppers was that report, right? Talked a lot about them. They're going to be big pulling back there on the Gen Z side of things. The baby boomers, I think, were going to spend more. Gen X was going to be about even. Gen Z was going to pull back in big numbers here. So sales during the November 25 to January 26 period, well, they're expected to rise between 2.9 and 3.4%. There was a 4.2% increase last year. Yeah, and so a pullback. It's a pullback. It's a substantial one, but it's not a drive off the cliff pullback coming up here as well. So So basically, the if you translate that out into money terms, yeah, holiday sales are going to be 1.61 million to 1.62 trillion dollar. I'm sorry, they're both trillions. 1.61 trillion, 1.62 trillion dollars this year. Last year, 1.57 trillion. Remember, lots of price increases. So adding into that number as well. Sales increased by 7.2% during the holiday season of 2020 and 2021. Before that, there was a 4.9% rise in 2019 into 2020. Give you an idea of what people are expecting coming up here for the holiday season. If you want to break it down into where people are going to shop, well, Dorlet does forecast e-commerce sales to increase 7 to 9% during the season. So largely in line with last year because last year was 8% growth. In-store sales are projected to rise between 2 and 2.2% this year. Well, last year, that's going to be a big slowdown because last year they were at 3.4% growth last year. So in-store sales are what looks like it's going to be a problem here for the retailers out there. And folks, appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday edition. When we come back, we'll keep it rolling. We got some local stories for you. Update on that Scottsdale City Council vote. Are they suing Arizona for that law? Are they not? It's got the cojones to do it, or do they not? We'll have that update. If you ever smelled sunscreen and said, I'd like to eat that, might have that opportunity for you. And I'm not a big Girl Scout cookie fan. I know. Shoot me now. They have a flavor coming out that I can get on board with. Come on back. It's McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business, having some fun on this Wednesday. Earlier today, of course, we did at the main event, me and 17-year NFL veteran Dale Hellestrade talked to Coach Mike Sheehan. Returned from the week off where they were up at their retreat for school. They, of course, are 3-0 on the season. Play Glendale Prep here on Friday night, back home up there in Scottsdale. We had that interview going to be up on the YouTube channel. Under interviews, of course, the whole show now is up on YouTube as well, on demand there for you. Like and subscribe that page to catch all of the showing. Of course, if you catch us live here at Robat TV, thank you very much. Shows are, of course, on demand here as well. YouTube now with the YouTube channel, of course. Free podcast system as well for the main event. Like, subscribe to that. Don't have to re-listen to it if you already listen elsewhere. Just like, subscribe, just gets it out there to other people that listen to similar things to us out there. Of course, this program live at 11 o'clock as well, McCollum on Business. We put this up on demand on Robat TV and, of course, YouTube also. You can catch us there. For those of you that have already found that, thank you very much. I know somebody reached out to me and was like, I didn't know you did a business show. I watch you every day. I was like, I talk about it all the time. So give people the YouTube page and everything. We greatly appreciate that. And, of course, the pit stop's coming up today as well. We changed the format on the pit stop this week kind of quietly. We're doing a test week. Monday, I did a review of the weekends of racing. Today, I'm going to record a look-ahead day of racing here, looking ahead to Bristol Motor Speedway this weekend. All three series are racing. All three are in the playoff series now. And, of course, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night racing here coming up for the NASCAR series. So the look ahead is up there. The look back at last weekend is up, not only on Robat TV, but also YouTube on the YouTube channel and then the podcast, the free podcast there at on Podbean only right now at the Pit Stop Talk social media handles, and the Podbean link there is where you go for that free podcast out there as well. So it's kind of a format change for Pit Stop, makes it into 2 shows, but more relevant information as we go through the week. And we'll try this format for a few weeks or rest of the season and see how that goes. But that'll be up later on today. Monday's recap of the weekend is already there, folks. And with all that being said, let's keep it going here with that Market Watch. And even with all the PPI news and everything is just nominal out there, not big movements today. Everybody's waiting for the consumer pricing index to come out tomorrow. And so the Dow Jones is down the 181 points right now. The S&P 500's up 5. Nasdaq's flipped. It's negative, but only down 3 points right now. The Russell 2000 is up 1. Bitcoin, 2,000 points up today, but in that 113,000 range, 113,558 for Bitcoin here today. We talked earlier when we looked at stocks and talked about Oracle being up that almost 40%, because I think it was at 37 when we showed you earlier. It hit 40% today as well, headed for its best day since 1992 of all times. Obviously, big movements for that, but we're going to look at a company called Joby Aviation right now. We've talked about this stock a lot. Right now, it's down 0.6%. Earlier today, it was up 1% as it rose earlier today. These are the company, and this is the company that does and is developing those air taxis. Everybody else calls them helicopters. They call them air taxis. Well, why did it rise earlier today? I don't know why it's going down now, but why did it rise earlier? Well, Uber said it would launch Blade helicopter rides in 2026. Yes, they're expanding. Uber's expanding its partnership with Joby, and they're saying 2026 is when they're going to start doing those Blade helicopter rides for Uber. So that was the initial growth of the stock here today. Now, of course, today it's down 0.75% as the day has gone on. And for those of you that buy a lot of pet stuff from Chewy, well, you're not buying enough from them. Chewy's our next stock we're going to look at. 17.22% down here for Chewy today. They reported a very large year-over-year drop in earnings. Like off a cliff large, folks. 14 cents per share is what they did there. Last year, they had 68 cents per share. That's a drop, folks. That is a very shocking drop. Second quarter, the revenue for them was $183.3 million. Well, that actually exceeded the estimate of $182.1 million. So revenue was an exception. The earnings per share, their earnings there was way down, 14 cents. And last year, not even expectations, last year they were at 68 cents per share. Their stock taking a beating today based off of that news, 17.32% right now. And then finally, we're going to look at the chip maker Broadcom is what we're going to look at. Up today, 7.53% right now, was up close to 10% earlier today. Well, traders are betting that Oracle's blockbuster guidance, the one that got them to 40% up today with those numbers that we talked about earlier. Well, their investors are basically betting that Broadcom's going to benefit from Oracle's large numbers here as well. The Oracle growth is going to lead to Broadcom because they make the chips that Oracle needs for that growth. And their investors are today saying that Oracle could bring Broadcom along in terms of extra revenues and stuff like that. So Broadcom up on the backs of Oracle here today, 7.56% as of right now. So it's amazing how industries are tied together like they are out there in this world. So now let's get to some local stories. Of course, we have to do a follow-up here right off the bat, right? I told you yesterday the Scottsdale City Council was going to vote on whether to sue the state of Arizona based off of that, what they call the Axon bill. We talked about that yesterday. Well, they had the meeting last night, and Scottsdale City Council tabled that vote on whether to sue the state of Arizona. So they're not moving ahead with it now. They're going to think about it some more and everything out there. I saw a lot of disagreement on what this means out there. So only 3 of the 7 council members voted to move forward with a decision on the lawsuit. So they didn't even get to that point. I saw a lot of people in the crowd, and you can see it was a big crowd there as well. A lot of people in the crowd were saying Scottsdale City Council is afraid of Axon, that they might lose. I saw a lot of those allegations, and even one council member said that. And I saw other ones say we just don't have enough information on it. Interesting move here. This could not get back to the board now. The fact that they've tabled it. Um, Scottsdale, enjoy your 2,000, what was it, 1,900 apartments up there on their campus here. And doesn't look like your city council is willing to fight for that moving forward as of now out there. So there's that update. And then we talked earlier, right, about the job numbers. Earlier, we talked about how the Trump administration's upset about that big revision number. Well, what does that mean specifically for Arizona out there? And this comes from KJazz as well. But they say Arizona saw about 34,800 more jobs than earlier estimated. So the nation as a whole revised down 911,000. Well, they're saying here in Arizona up about 35,000 jobs in that same time frame. And those numbers are from 2024 till February of this year for that number to come out. The federal data doesn't even break down job sector numbers by state, which I was like, how did you get this number, right? Well, they got it from workforce data released last month, and it shows that business services are among the top growing sectors between July 24 and July of 25. Other top performing categories in the state, well, it included healthcare, no surprise there. And then even private education was the other top performing category here in Arizona, at least that we get from the reporting there from KJazz. So all the rest of the country, I shouldn't say all of them, but the national numbers down to 911,000 revised. Well, we're up 35,000, 34,800. Kind of tell you where we are on that side. And do you live in a hot area around town? Do you live in an area where other people want to live? Well, the business journals came out. They did their analysis of the country's hottest housing markets. They analyzed zip code, level mortgage, and real estate data that was provided by Intercontinental Exchange. Basically, they're trying to determine the top luxury housing markets out there. Rankings spotlight zip codes where activity is surging, prices are dramatically rising, or even homes are selling at a faster pace than other parts of the country. And we have a zip code here in the Phoenix area that is in the top 7, put it that way. 85012 zip code. It's Central Phoenix is where that is. North Central Phoenix, so walking distance to like the Heard Museum and Phoenix Art Museum. So that's the area we're talking about here. Well, they rank number 7 among the hottest zip codes nationally. It's behind some big name places like Sunapee, New Hampshire, LA, California, the 90020 there in LA. Greenville, Maine are the top 3 areas on the list here. So within that 85012 here in Phoenix, available listings are up 75%. Listings under contract are down 40% in that time frame. The average list price for homes in the area, well, it's $875,191. An average sale price of $1.4 million at that time. Year-over-year sales price growth, 92.57%. If you bought a house last year in that zip code, you almost doubled your money in a year at that point. Arizona did have 124 of the hottest luxury markets, 3 of the top 100, with most of the zip codes located in Phoenix. That was 25 of those. Scottsdale had 10. Tucson had 10 also listed on there. Hey, even if you go outside of, the Phoenix, Tucson metro area, there's a small town out there. Yeah, it's in the Arizona's Topoc area. This is zip code 86436. It's a small town. It's on the Colorado River, about midway between Lake Havasu City and Bullhead City. Yeah, I looked up the zip code to find out where it was at. It's one of the 5 hottest housing markets in the nation during the first quarter, and it ranked number 4 on that list as well. So there you go, small town over there on the western part of the U.S., the western part of Arizona. There, getting on this list as well. There in the first quarter at that time, but yeah, downtown Phoenix, huge area of growth there, and I think it doesn't look at. It doesn't look at hotness and it just looks at the sales on the market, how fast are they selling stuff. So it's not the hip list that you see a lot of times out there on the market. So hey, you're a Girl Scout cookie fan? Are you a Rocky Road fan? Like I could eat Rocky Road ice cream all day long. Well, Explore More's is coming out. It's a Rocky Road ice cream inspired sandwich cookie. Well, it's going to round out the lineup for the 2026 Girl Scout cookie season. This is a cookie I'd be interested in trying. And look, you don't mess around with my Rocky Road. I will get upset about it. The Girl Scouts put out a September 9th press release, and they said they're, quote, taking after the classic chocolate treat. The cookie captures the limitless spirit of exploration that drives Girl Scouts. Explore More's will be available for purchase nationally, both online and in person at local booths. Of course, this is the January till April 2026 is the season. I know some localities get them beforehand. Local areas do. So it's a Rocky Road inspired ice cream, obviously, a sandwich cookie, and it's, quote, filled with delicious flavors of chocolate, marshmallow, and toasted abounded flavored cream. Almond flavored cream. Screwed that up. Let's we'll delete that. Filled with delicious flavors of chocolate, marshmallow, and toasted almond flavored cream. I'm gonna have to try that one out there. So that's looking forward to what's happening here in January. If you're a cookie fan out there, and then this one I'm not so sure about. One, I don't like how this is a marketing gimmick, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. And two, sounds disgusting. Have you ever put on sunscreen and then said, I'd like to eat this? Well, Van Leeuwen Ice Cream, Carnival Cruise Line, they're partnering up to create a sunscreen-flavored ice cream in honor of the end of summer. Yeah, they put out this press release on September 8th. They're doing some online ads for it and everything, as you see there on your screen. The flavor is designed as a cheeky nod to summer's signature scent, and it aims to combat what Carnival calls the end of summer series, or scaries. Gosh, I cannot read today. This is all from the press release out there. The end of summer scaries. Customers, well, you're not going to be able to eat it yet, folks. The ice cream isn't available for purchase. Yes. If the flavor generates enough buzz from the marketing campaign, it could have a limited time release. Why are you even teasing us with this? One, I'm not interested. But two, put it out. Be a manly company. Put it out there. See if people buy it. Wait for marketing to come up. Get out of here. Anybody interested in this? I can get behind the Rocky Road inspired stuff. Absolutely. Anybody getting behind this? Anybody? I've never put on my sunscreen, even if it's a nice smelling one like coconut or something. I've never been like, I'd love to eat this. Breaking headlines right now. I know it's politics more than business side, but looks like Charlie Kirk, of course, lives here in Arizona and everything. Apparently, reportedly has been shot at a Utah college event out there. So that is hitting the waves right now for those of you that follow that type of politics and things around the business world as well. Klarna opened today on the New York Stock Exchange for them. And folks, this was a fun show. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 o'clock, of course, on Thursday. Check out the pit stop later on today as well. We'll have it up about 2 o'clock, the look-ahead show to this weekend's racing at Bristol. Of course, the review of last weekend's racing is already up there on the YouTube and Robat TV as well. Main events up as well. This will be up on demand on YouTube and Robat TV in about 30 minutes as well. So, folks, Check it all out for us if you will, and we'll see you tomorrow, 11 o'clock here, McCollum on Business.